Hello and welcome to The Build Up. This is the podcast for marketing in the construction industry. I'm Dan, the creative director at Dissident. We've been working with construction brands for a number of years. It's an exciting and rapidly evolving industry, and that's why we created a podcast dedicated to the weird and wonderful world of construction marketing. I'll be speaking to leading brands, other agencies, creatives, influencers and startups. This is the resource I wish we had when we first started out in the industry. Thank you for being here and welcome to The Build Up. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
This is The Build Up. We're calling it The Build Up, I think. It's a working title. I keep trying to call it The Grow Up.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
But that's my own specific podcast about me just trying to stop being a man-child. We've got Oliver. Do you prefer Oliver or Ollie?
Ollie.
Ollie
Mum calls
Partington.
me Oliver.
Okay.
I'm in trouble.
So we've got Ollie
go with Ollie.
Partington from Stabila. You can call it Stabila if you like. You can call it Stabila if you like. But we've decided it's Stabila
Yep, that's
today.
what we're going with.
And you are the managing director, right?
That's right, yeah.
Of Stabila. But you used to be marketing director.
Sales and marketing
Director. So really well versed to talk about construction marketing, especially from a brand side. I think this might be the first brand side kind of like marketing specialist that we've had on the show so far, which I'm really, really excited about. And we're going to be talking today about like your sort of journey in construction, what you do at Stabila, how you see the kind of landscape and stuff like that. But before we do, can you give us a little introduction to yourself, kind of your journey and how you got from, I don't know, not working in construction to now being the managing director of Stabila UK?
Yeah, I can do. So obviously I'm Ollie Partington. I'm the managing director for Stabila UK and Ireland. If I go all the way back to the start, I did a marketing degree when I was at university. More from a case of I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah,
I just did a generic business course, quite like marketing. So more into sort of the psychology of buying behaviour. So that's kind of the interest that sparked it originally. I then came straight out of university on a graduate scheme with AkzoNobel, so with Dulux paint.
Okay.
Very much to try and do marketing and sales. To be honest, I probably ended up spending then the bulk of the next 13 years that I was there working in some sort of commercial salesy type role.
Okay.
So probably sort of developed a bit of an opinion that sales was the coal face of the business, and marketing was sort of a creative thing that happened in the background. I started to get more actively involved with like brand strategy and comms, and then moving on towards Stabila. I'd already been involved in a lot of different parts of organizations, supply chain, sales, marketing, operations, stores that we had at the time, and decided I wanted to do something that was a bit of a broader, more strategic commercial job. Mm-hmm. So Stabila came up. Now, Stabila are a very well established, been going for 135 years, German manufacturer of measuring equipment. So predominantly spirit levels is where our reputation lies, but tape measures, digital levels, folding rules, laser levels. So anything to do with measurement equipment. Now, for Stabila in the UK, they'd not employed their own people here before. A very traditional model of treating the UK and a lot of the rest of the world as export markets. So you load trailers, you send it to agents and wholesalers, and then they're responsible for relaying the brand message. Mm-hmm. So they were looking for somebody to come in and effectively set up a business in the UK. So it kind of it worked nicely for me because it's kind of a startup, but without the pressure of a startup.
Yeah,
so
you've got a big brand behind you already.
Exactly.
And they're already well established in the UK, right?
Yeah, established, well-known brand. One of the first things we actually did, I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, was we did market research because I said when I came in, before deciding what sort of people we bring in, what brand strategies we put in place, we kind of need to know where we're at. And what it showed us really clearly was awareness was the gap for us.
Okay.
Actually, if people know about Stabila, the chances are they already own it. And if they already own Stabila, satisfaction's really high and recommendations really high. So we spent a lot of money on doing market research that kind of told us one thing mainly, which is focus on awareness if you drive the brand message.
Yeah.
So I joined as sales and marketing director, really with that approach to start building better relationships with retailers, to start building a clearer pull marketing strategy. So instead of just pushing product onto people, to push it onto other people, to focus on the end user, and to get that cut through on marketing communication all the way down to the end user. So bringing in a marketing manager, a couple of sales guys to really grow and develop the business. I think the step into being a managing director, to be honest, it was described to me pretty well by a member of my team who said, it's pretty much the same old shit wrapped in glitter, isn't it? I said, well, I might as well show off the sparkles, but it's sort of a continuation of what we're already doing. You know, it's a commercial brief. Stabila as an organisation, the reason they've been going for 135 years is they are product focused. You know, they have people within the organisation that are so passionate and focused on innovation. I think they hold over 200 patents. Wow. You know, which for people that might be outside of the industry go, it's just a spirit level, isn't it? Yeah. But there's 200 patents behind the product range that we do. So you know that the manufacturing and the quality and the product that's coming over is brilliant. Yeah. So you've got real trust in it. The challenge then comes to communicating it and getting the message out there.
Can we take a little step back to the market research, because that was something that we talked that we brushed over, spoke about in a different episode with Ryan from SLG. He was really, really big into his research, and it's something that I'd love to kind of find out more about. Just broad strokes, what does market research look like? How do you engage with that? Are you looking at third parties, or putting out, are there specific places you can go to get this data?
Yeah, so we partnered with, for a start, you have to partner with a third party because you need to get authentic opinions from actual tradesmen. So I think we worked off a target of, I think it was 400 people, tradesmen we'd speak to. And in that, you've got a clear brief to them on, there has to be a demographic split. Yes. Then there has to be a split on the trades that you operate in. So you have this full network set out of, these are all the type of people we need to talk to. Yes. So you have to have somebody that can source those people and find them. So it's a third party in Germany that we partner with that then had an agent or part of their operation in the UK. So, and they just start with a series of questions. So you agree with them. There are a series of questions that you want to ask that will give you data and an output to help you inform your decisions. So, take awareness as an example. Simple question: have you heard of Stabila before? Yeah. Then it goes on to the next question, which is, well, what's your experience been like? And then they'll have a criteria. You'll have 24 different things that will say, well, where does it sit when it comes to quality? Yes. Where does it sit when it comes to longevity or accuracy? These sort of key attributes that you apply to a brand. You then compare it to other brands as well. So you have to find 400 tradesmen that are willing to spend quite a lot of time talking to somebody, talking to a researcher about it. So it's quite a long process. Really cool though, and I love the idea of being able to have at the end of that, you've not had to really deal with you've obviously got to pay for it, but you've paid a third party who can get access to these people. You can set the criteria of kind of what those people look like. You get all this data back, and I imagine there's some kind of trends and charts and all these kinds of different things of kind of, okay, this is what the general consensus of opinion is across, let's say, all of them, but then you can specify to different areas. So, and then you can use that information as ammunition to go, right, this is the strategy based on this research.
we can move forward on a particular strategy because we're not just blindly having a go.
Yeah,
And I love that idea, and it's something that we've not really ever come across as a we've never had to utilize as an agency because we don't go that far in depth. And as a result, I know very little about like that kind of level of research, but so cool.
I think you can, if you don't use a third party, you can overlay your own bias, and it's really easy. Like in any marketing decision or even a sales decision, you have an opinion. And the longer you've been in the industry or the longer you've been in an organization, you apply your own view on what it should look like. And you can go into market research and think, right, I know that we need to drive awareness with a younger audience. So you will position the questions differently according to who you're talking to because you're overlaying your own bias.
Yes.
So you use a third party and like you're saying, what you get afterwards is really rich data that you know has come from somebody that's completely impartial.
Yes.
That they might have this network of people to talk to, but they don't really know a huge amount about your business and what you should do.
Yeah. Keelan's just sent me an email.
Oh, yeah.
You're not paying attention. You're doing your email.
I think Ollie might have sent it.
Maybe, yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about like Stabila? I've done it again.
Stabila, you can call it whatever you want.
Yeah, I might change it sort of throughout the actual episode. Like in terms of like, it's a German brand, obviously, right? Is it German?
Yeah.
Like, can you talk us a little bit more about like who uses like Stabila and like is there a typical kind of tradesperson DIY? Like who's it kind of like aimed at?
So I suppose our target market is professional tradesmen. That's sort of the global aim for Stabila is to be number one in measurement equipment for the professional. You know, there's more that goes into making a Stabila level versus everything else that's out on the market. So it means that there's a price premium. So yeah, our target market is professional trade. Beyond that, you know, we have the benefit of most trades and most people will need some form of measurement tool. You know, you need an accurate spirit level. You need a tape measure. A lot of people will be using lasers now. So we can cover a lot of different trades. So from installer trades to carpentry to bricklaying. Now, again, going back to the research, the beauty of that is it helps you understand where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. Because the reality is what a plumber needs is different to what a carpenter needs.
Yes.
But because we just make measurement equipment, it means that actually we've got over 200, 220 products in the range that mean that there are products that are tailored and specific to a certain user.
That's really cool. And from a business model point of view, Stabila sold all through distributors. There's no like straight direct to consumer.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so we don't do direct to consumer. It's not to say it's not something we'd look at and consider in the future because, like I said before, the big focus on communication for us is communicating directly to the end user, the people that are using the product. And at some point, you'd expect that to evolve into being able to service them and have a direct relationship. But yeah, I say it's the same globally for us, that our model is we work either through wholesaler or we work through direct to a retailer.
The reason why I asked that, and because it has its own marketing, I wouldn't say problems, but things that you've got to check off, which is, and this is something we come across a lot with in the work that we do, is marketing direct to consumer is very different to marketing to essentially like an end user that's buying through a distributor, because the sales is different. You know, all of a sudden there's no point in doing an e-commerce ad, which is something we do for some of our brands, because some of them do sell direct to consumer, where you're going, this is a product, it's amazing, click the link to buy it, and you can get loads of great sales data based off all of the creative that we make. Whereas most of the brands that we work with sell through distributors, sell through retailers. So that now we're marketing to end users, hoping that the end users go into the distributor to buy that product, and the sales data eventually comes around in 6 months to 12 months time or whatever, and we know if it's been successful or not. And that's a big challenge. But also, it's a unique challenge in the fact that if you've got a brand new product that's coming out, and currently it's not in the distributors, it's not in the retailers and stuff like that, you've got to get sort of buy-in from the end user before the distributor will even consider taking it most of the time. I imagine some will be like, yeah, we know that will sell, no problem at all, because we sell so much Stabila stuff that it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But if you bring out something that's pretty wild, you've then got to do marketing campaigns to get the consumer to ask their local retailer to sell this stuff. You know, do you come across that? And is that a problem that you guys have?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that there's the pace at which a lot of retailers, particularly larger retailers, work can be quite slow.
Yeah.
So really good example of you launch a new product and you can talk well in advance, but then you can have 9-month lead times before it can physically get listed.
Yeah.
And you're preparing yourself for a launch, and you can generate the demand with end users, but you can also piss them off if they then can't buy it.
Yes.
This is where, like, online retailing, there are pros and there are cons to it. The pro is you can move quickly.
Yeah.
So we had a big product launch last year, and we did get some traditional retailers, builders, merchants on board, but we got some key online retailers all over it from an early stage, committing to content, committing to listings, full videos, everything all lined up ready. You can move really quickly then. So when you launch, you can do your pull marketing, you can engage with end users, you can create demand for the product. You've got availability straight away because it's there online. And then the next step is then you drive demand with the retailer. I'd say with anything, it's a combination of that push marketing. You have to be able to drive demand with retail, either through sales approach or through marketing. And likewise, you then have to have the other side, pull, drive demand with the end user, and you squeeze it in the middle.
Yes.
And you push that relationship between an end user and between a retailer by doing the two. But we've had some really good examples where like the pull marketing, it's a longer game, but it's a better game to play.
Yes.
So, you know, without naming names, we partner with it's like a social group. It's a Brick Lane social group.
Yeah.
They set up a new event. We're straight on board with it, supporting it, and then a retailer also steps in to support it, who we've really struggled to get any contact with. But because of that focus with that end user group, straight away you then have the retailer coming to us saying, we need to talk to you about Stabila because we keep getting pestered by all these bricklayers about we need to have this and this product in store. Perfect. So there's things like that come through because everything leaves a perception. You know, a buyer at a retailer, they're still a person that are involved in the industry. So the more things that you do, the more activity you do, they will see it. You know, like I do get big buyers at big retailers that will say, I really like your social content.
Yes.
You know, so you're not trying to build Instagram content for that senior corporate buyer, but they're following it.
Yeah,
and they can see how you're positioning yourself with an end user.
Absolutely. And we came across something the other day, and it was something that got recommended. I was having some chats with some very clever marketers, essentially. They work in a completely different industry to us and have completely different deliverables to us. But they were saying, it was an interesting one. They were saying, like, you know, marketing is always the first thing to go when budgets are tight and stuff like that. So his strategy was he essentially a marketing agency, but they work with salespeople, sales directors, sales as a rule. So if you separate marketing and sales, a lot of the time there's like a grey middle ground. But he's like, we're going straight to the sales guys. What can we do to support the sales guys? Which typically marketing supports sales, but sometimes they don't speak to each other that well. And that got me thinking about something that we're working on at the moment with one of our clients, which is to completely revamp their sales kind of experience of going into retailers with a brand new product. Because, like you said, typically products can take up to 12 months from launch to actually get into somewhere like Screwfix or something like that. Screwfix is a little bit better now because, again, it's online, a lot of it. But your traditional retailers, sometimes it can just take a long time. You can have a lot of conversations before it gets to the point where that's in there. So what we're doing is we're starting to look at the sales presentations and the way that they engage with these buyers and drive the pull in the actual presentations, because a lot of the time these presentations are like, here, this is the product, this is how it stacks up against its competitors, pricing, stats, maybe some cool visuals, but that's kind of it. And the sales guys are just kind of working on that. So we're looking at like revamping the whole experience so that we can, with a big emphasis on the pull. So we're showing the general public, the end user, the influencer going, where the hell can I get this product because it's amazing? And like really pushing sort of that element to it. Again, a bit of an experiment. We'll see how it works. But the idea behind it is if we can bring a product to market 6 months earlier than would typically be, it wouldn't, before we were working with them. That'd be a hell of a lot of income for the brand, right? An extra 6 months of sales would be like crazy money. I never thought about it like that. I just always assumed like let's just focus on the campaigns and let's not think about the sales guy, because the sales guy maybe gets some imagery from us, like down the line or something. But that's about it. Everything else is just stats and sales stuff. Interesting.
For me, like I've one of my main learnings after spending a lot of time doing sales and now coming into a role where it's probably more marketing than it is sales is that the two are the same thing. Ultimately, it's a slightly different approach, slightly different audience, but the role of sales and marketing is to get product in people's hands. It's a slightly different way. It's that push and that pull. You've got salespeople that are getting product into retailers, and then you've got marketing people that are getting end users to demand it.
Yes,
but they're doing the same thing ultimately. Where we're quite lucky is we're a small team. So if you are in sales, you are in marketing.
Yeah.
And if you are in marketing, you are in sales. So,
and if you're an MD, you do everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm customer services.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's not a joke. Yeah. If you go on the website and you ring up Stabila customer services, it's my mobile number.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I shouldn't really put that out there, should I?
That's okay. Might start ringing you and be like, I got a problem with my level.
Yeah, put on a different voice.
Everything's on the skew.
Yeah.
I love that. Let's have a think about the sort of landscape of marketing in the construction industry. We've had a couple of conversations beforehand about this. What's your views on kind of what that looks like now? And perhaps you can reference like what it used to be like, when you first started in the industry, because you were at Dulux, a real while back.
Yeah, so I was at Dulux for 13 years. Yeah. I said predominantly in sales, but spent most of the time in and around construction, so dealing with painting contractors. What I say is there's a perception that it's a very traditional industry, construction, with an older demographic, and there is an element of truth to that. And I'd say historically, it has been driven by marketing and comms has been driven by very traditional methods. So print media, magazines, and that's what most brands would do. You would have a magazine that all the builders merchants buy into, and they have a stack of them on the counter, and people take them away and read them. But I think that it's accelerated really quickly. And
I
think a lot of brands have been left behind because there's been a perception that we just do the same thing.
Yeah.
Each year you follow the same path, the same type of look and the same type of feel and the same type of message and the same avenues to communicate. I say particularly the bigger established brands just follow the same path and almost treat the industry as, well, it's traditional, it's older guys, and those older guys, they're not going to go onto TikTok.
Yeah.
And the reality is that I'd say the different ways in which you can communicate your brand message have accelerated so much over the past couple of years, really. And the reason why people have been left behind is they thought, well, our target market are over the age of 55. But the reality is, there probably is some truth in that. Yeah. And they might not be going on TikTok, but the industry is growing and is moving on, and there is a younger audience that everybody is trying to fight over to get in front of that younger audience.
And they're brand loyal as well. These guys, like, you know, they care about what they wear. They care about what they use. They're invested in a story. Whereas, you know, traditionally, I think, you know, the building trade was you got the cheapest thing you could get your hands on, cheapest boots, cheapest work clothes. Perhaps you'd spend a bit extra money on like your drills and stuff like that. But everything else was like, because they were buying it themselves, they were like, I just need to get the job done.
Yeah.
Whereas I think these days, more and more, you see like apprentices like shelling out tons and tons of money on some of the best gear because it's like, I want this to last. And they've got like almost like a completely different mentality, and they're very brand loyal as they are for their clothes and stuff like when they're outside of the industry. So, there's still the old guard. They're still about, but the new guys that are coming through, get on them early.
Yeah, there was one thing actually that surprised me when we did our market research, because you see the different demographics and you see how they buy, and I'd sort of thought that you would have people that are over 55, they're more willing to spend money on quality tools. So for us, we sell quality tools. They're more expensive. There's a lot of cheaper alternatives. So that's still our core market. But actually the younger audience and those apprentices are just as, if not more, willing to spend more money.
Yes.
So again, you treat them as, well, younger people nowadays, and they'll shop around and they'll go online and they'll buy cheap. They don't.
No.
How you communicate to them is changing.
Yes.
You know, that you do have to have then a really balanced comms strategy, because again, I think a lot have been left behind, but then people lurch to Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, it's just Instagram. But actually it's not. It's Instagram, it's TikTok, it's podcasts that people listen to, but it's also Facebook and it's community groups. I think the common thread all the way through, and we talked about this on the phone, is, you know, I think that in the UK in particular, tradespeople and their buying behaviour is influenced heavily by recommendation. We hear it all the time from older people that say, you know, I bought my first Stabila level as an apprentice because my dad always had a Stabila, and you get the same thing now, but the bit that's changed is how those recommendations get to people.
Yes.
Because if you go back, you know, that 55-year-old plus, if you go back 20, 30 years when they're first starting out, maybe a bit longer, you know, you're getting to the point where internet isn't even there.
Yeah.
So recommendation is literally the guy on the site telling them. Now, people still work off recommendation. They're still willing to buy expensive quality tools and power tools, but they get recommendations through other ways and other means. And this is where socials becomes important. They will scroll through on TikTok and they'll look at videos and see what people are saying about product. They'll go on YouTube. They follow YouTube channels of people that give recommendations. That's how they get it.
Yeah.
So that's probably the common thread has always been recommendation. The bit that's changed significantly has been the different avenues that you can communicate recommendation. Absolutely.
Which it's, you know, that the influencer, the recommendation kind of thing is you know, the bones of it essentially. You have somebody, and it could be like, this can be working twofold. You've got the guy on site who you aspire to be, the top level craftsman, artisan, tradesperson, using all like some of the best tools. You go, that guy produces really good work, or that girl produces really good work. They're the tools that they use to get that job done. Therefore, they're probably a good fit for if I want to be like that. Yeah. And you'll get exactly the same thing on social media. So if you aspire to be the same level, or if you just like really respect the opinion of a particular person on social media because they make good work and they get loads of jobs and whatever it could be, and you see the tools that they're using and the way that they're using them, you go, that's obviously the right pick then, you know what I mean? Even if they're not even saying it, you just see a logo. You just go, well, okay, that's obviously the one for the job. Because I can't imagine there's a lot of people out there that do like genuine research into tools. I might be talking out my arse there, but you know how you sort of do like, you would research a car and you would look at MPG, you look at the safety factors and all that kind of thing. I think that's I think tradespeople will probably buy stuff a little bit differently because they might do their research after the recommendation because it's kind of like a nerdy thing to do. It's exciting.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine there's a lot of people putting into a Google search, or give me top
4
10
options.
yeah, top 10 levels or whatever. Yeah. I might be wrong there.
I think I don't think you are, and I'm not saying this with a huge amount of experience of it. I think it's slightly different in the US.
Is it?
So I think the US, there are a lot of YouTube channels that do comparisons.
Okay.
And they get big hits. And
Yes.
that is people that will say, I've got 4 different laser levels here, and I'm going to show you how they work, and I'm going to tell you what I think about all of them, and then I'm going to rank them for you.
I think that might be a little. Yeah, I think that's a little bit different to what I had in my head, which was like essentially going onto a web page and like looking at one level against the other, or one drill against another. I think something like top 10 or comparisons between 2 or 3 different kind of the same products. I think that probably happens a lot. To be fair. Even in the UK, because that's a fun thing to watch of an evening, isn't it? You know what I mean? Even if you've already made your decision, it's like, well, at least I made the right choice or whatever. That's really, really interesting. It kind of brings me on to like how, so the market has changed. The way that people interact with brands is changing. How long have you been at Stabila for now?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. How have you made some differences to Stabila as a UK presence then, and what does that look like since you took over?
Yeah, I think there's maybe 2 points I'd make. One was again something we discussed around like modernising a brand. Mm-hmm. So I'll go back 8 years first. This was before I was with Stabila. So 8 years ago, Stabila was turning over 50 million euros. It's now over 100 million.
Globally?
Globally,
okay.
Yeah. So not in the UK.
Yeah, that'd be
nice.
Cool. Yeah.
I probably would need someone to do customer service. I couldn't do that myself. So a lot of that growth has come from changing and breathing some life into the brand. Mm-hmm. So some of that starts with the research, but then goes to how you want to communicate the brand and where you want to communicate it. So that journey's already happened. Mm-hmm. And the reason I explained that first is part of that journey was bringing me in to start with to try and put some changes in place. And a lot of it starts with what's your clear brand strategy. Mm-hmm. So use the market research that we talked about earlier. What are the key things that you want to focus on? So for us, it was things like awareness that we've already talked about. Yes. It was about product diversity. So one of our core strengths is we've got a lot of different products that nobody knows about.
Yes.
It's a bit of awareness. Customer journey. So actually how people interact with our tools, our products, and interact with the brand. Mm-hmm. So build a clear strategy, and then it comes to what are the vehicles and the avenues you've got to communicate. So we started to do quite a lot more with community groups. So we partner with the Tilers community on Facebook. We partner with the Bricklayers Social Club. Those give us the opportunity to be part of the conversation. So you can do proactive social listening. There's a face to the brand.
Yes.
That again is a key part of communicating is you want to put a face and you want to create a relationship between the brand and the end user that didn't necessarily exist before. It then expands into trade shows, trade events. So we thought about all the different trade events that happen in the UK because it's a lot of money and a lot of time commitment to do them. So
expensive.
And we don't have a big budget. So we sat back and said, we've kind of dabbled in them before. We turn up with a toolbar or two and people can come and they can buy product. We said, we either do it or we don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to go and just have toolbars. So, we committed, we invested in bigger stands, better execution, more like experience type things, like we do a strength bar to create challenge, to try and bring people on.
Yes.
Because even at the shows, we just interact with people that already knew Stabila and already bought it.
Yeah.
So we're like, actually, how do you have to create a bigger presence to pull people into the brand? So we we've tried to make a lot of changes in how we bring the brand in front of people, to invest in that pull marketing through shows, through socials, through partnerships and collaborations. And it's been working well.
Amazing. So modernizing the brand, essentially, like that was that's been a huge success for you. Thinking about all the different ways that we can communicate to the end user, how we can drive awareness to the actual product, and there's multiple ways of doing that. In terms of the trade shows and stuff like that, it's an interesting thought, that because I have interactions with brands who've got big budgets and small budgets, and so some of them and I don't. I've had conversations with people who can't afford our services, but because they use a lot of their budget on things like trade shows and stuff like that. And they get kind of like an okay stand. It looks all right. And then I see them and their stand's dead, like it's properly dead. And I sort of look at that and thinking, I don't know personally which way would have been better for them, working with us and having, putting all of that budget into like social content, a decent social media presence, a team behind like what they do, or the 3 or 4 trade shows. And I don't think I've ever really asked this to a brand before, but like, what's your measure of success from the trade shows? Because I see them as being massively beneficial, and I've also seen brands that we work with really step up their game at the trade shows. And like they've gone from like, kind of like the little stands that kind of barely branded and stuff like that, the kind of like boxes and stuff, to something that's like had quite a lot of investment, and their presence is skyrocketed. And so it doesn't make sense to me, because I'm like, there's not that many people at that trade show, and not all of them have come to see you, but you're seeing the trajectory of brand awareness just from a few big trade shows. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
A measure of success with any marketing activity you do, it's difficult to pin on.
You figure out 2 years
later. The reason
later.
a lot of people like a trade show, particularly the tool fairs, is you can sell. So you have a measure of success.
That's good, yeah.
Because you can say, well, we've sold X amount here, we've sold X amount there.
And how you do that is you partner up with like a distributor or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you partner up with a distributor, they bring a till, you bring the stock, and you can sell to people. So it gives you a bit of a measure, because you can physically sell, but then you go, well, what's your benchmark? Is it last year? My take on it is the sales is a good indication.
Yes.
It's not the measure. The measure is how many people are we interacting with, and what's the nature of those interactions. Going back to our strategy, are you driving awareness? Are we talking to people that we didn't talk to before? Are we driving better product diversity? So are there people that come to the stand and love Stabila, but they didn't know that you did pocket tapes and they bought a load
that's
of them?
cool.
So it's more, it's a little bit more advanced than just saying, well, how much do you sell on them? The where you invest your money from a marketing point of view, you could, if you doubled your budget, you'd spend it straight away.
Yeah.
But you'd never really know what exactly the return on investment is. And you can spend a lot of time trying to gauge on that specific activity. So like we've done radio advertising, which you do, and you straight away go, well, it's quite a bit of money. What's the return?
So always a surprising amount of investment. And
you can get different criteria. You can develop return on investment. The reality is you don't know.
Yeah.
But going back a step, when you do that market research to start with, we will do that every 2 years.
Okay.
So it's really important that you'd follow the same track every 2 years.
Yeah.
Because you do the market research that tells you what your awareness is.
That's your benchmark.
You build a long-term plan. So we'll do this next year. We'll do the market research again, and it'll tell us roughly how we've done.
Yeah.
You take it with a pinch of salt, but that for me is the gauge of success for all the activity you do.
Yeah.
All the communication strategy.
Proper long-term strategy.
Yeah.
It's massive. And it's something that, as a social media agency, we don't focus as much on long-term strategy because we're just kind of being told what to do. We've got this new product. Okay, let's do a campaign on that. We've got this other campaign that we're doing on sort of awareness of these kinds of things. So we're kind of moving on from that. But there's an overarching kind of like long-term strategy in all the different things that we're doing that's been set up by people who are more clever than us, the marketing directors and stuff like that, or other agencies. I was speaking to, again, Ryan from SLG about this, of the thing of long-term, we as marketers and creators, we get bored of our content and the campaigns way before our audience does. Stick with it, because, we're just like, we've seen too much of this same kind of thing. I'm like, your audience hasn't. There's people that haven't seen this yet. It's just because you're sick of it doesn't mean you should move. Like, stick with it, stay the course, and reevaluate in a year, 2 years time, whatever, and see how it worked. And I think a lot of that is missed in marketing. It's just like, if it wasn't a success on the day, how many numbers, how much engagement did we get in the first 4 hours? There's some element to like that's it's worth measuring, but think about it long term.
There's a comms guru I worked with years and years ago. He always described it as what's the golden thread?
Yes.
So the golden thread that goes through all those 5-10 years of comms activation, or even how you communicate a brand, whatever. That golden thread is the bit that pieces them all together. So that stops you from going, right, we're going to do this year. I'm bored of it, so we're just going to pivot and we're going to do something completely different. Understand who you are and understand who your customer is. Build the golden thread and just tie everything back to it. So this is where, for Stabila, we know what our golden thread is. We know what our audience is. It's a professional tradesman, and for us, it is precision.
Yeah.
Like we always start our training with the most costly mistake on a construction job is a measurement one.
Yes.
So that is why we exist ultimately, and that is our golden thread through any of our comms and any of our activation.
Mate, that's a hell of a marketing message, isn't it? That like taking it back to basics, like why you need our product, because it's the thing that you use to measure everything, and anytime you measure wrong, make a mistake or whatever, it's costing you time, it's costing you materials, costing you money.
Yeah,
that's a really, really cool analogy, I guess, for like a great marketing message. Love that. Really, really interesting to hear about the trade show stuff, because we are at a lot of trade shows.
Yeah.
And I look at the cost of some of the stuff that some of the stands that we have for our clients, and the amount of time, amount of people that they've got to put on it, and they're bringing in celebrities and stuff like that. And I'm like, Jesus, that's a lot of money. Was it worth it? But I think it is. But I wouldn't know if I had the choice of having one thing or another. That's a hard decision for me. It's like, do you go full trade shows and then no content, no social presence? Or do you have you know what I mean? Or there's I think ideally you'd have a bit of everything, and you'd have enough budget to do all these kinds of different things. But I imagine that it will all come down to research, of course, which is, I think the theme of this has almost been research, even like the golden thread. You need the research.
That's a hard balance, because you're trying to balance, you should say, well, you should be visible everywhere. You should have a balanced communication strategy, which says socials, content, print media, maybe a bit of radio, trade shows. You should do the whole lot.
Yeah.
But like I was saying before, with things like trade shows, either do it or don't.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, you've got to do it properly.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same with socials and with content, because you have to raise your game to a good level of content, but you have to be consistent. You have to stick at it, which is an area where we've done okay with, but we've not been particularly consistent. So
it's tough.
You have to raise your game, produce good content, and then it has to be like a metronome. You have to be able to just get the same consistent message out more frequently. So yeah,
good plug for Dissident Creative Agency then, Keelan, because obviously for small teams that perhaps don't have social media marketing or content creation, then obviously we can help to keep that consistency, because someone else is doing it for you. You just have to pay us loads of money to do it. But that leads us really nicely into the awareness element, because I think you guys do social media particularly well. There's a few elements that I think you do particularly well. You partner up with some really cool people, some great people. You are out there, and you're partnering with third parties, like the events that you mentioned and stuff like that. Can you talk us a little bit about your kind of like how that came about, what's going on with Stabila in terms of your, I mean, I guess social outreach would be, a social kind of like presence, and how you gain awareness would be most interesting to us.
Yeah, so I suppose social's been quite an important part since way before I joined.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I joined, I inherited a good UK platform on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
We have TikTok, we use Facebook as well. So it's across a number of different social channels. Our approach is again, we will map out content for a full year now,
Mm-hmm.
key messages that we want to get across. And those messages are split into like product awareness. It all goes back to the market research and brand strategy. So we will have product of the month.
Which I love that feature. That's really cool.
And we try and then generate videos and content that are around the product. But the end game there is we want to show people products that they've not seen before.
Amazing.
Or we want to show them things about products that they have that they didn't know it could do.
Yeah.
So you'll have things that are like product focus, and then you try and build in awareness features or things that create a little bit more interest. So you have things like golden oldies. So like we've got a letter through from a guy who's had his level for 55 years, and we put the letter out because it helps show, longevity. So you have like different features like that, or we have features where we focus in on the people that we partner with.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like how our partnerships work, it's a balance. I've said the word balance all the time, all the way through this, but it is a balance between getting reach, because you want to partner with people that can get your message across, and authenticity.
Yes.
So we get a lot of people approach us wanting to work with us. We don't have a massive budget to do it.
Yeah.
So we have to be quite careful with who we partner with. So they don't tend to be people that have hundreds and millions of followers.
Yeah.
They tend to be people that, I mean, you know the terms for it. I always forget, like a
micro-influencer
that have less of an audience, but more of a cult following.
Yes.
It goes back to that recommendation bit I was saying before, that if Liam's got 8,000-9,000, how many's Liam got now?
I've no idea. I can
Something
check.
like that.
Oh, it's not. I don't think it's even that many, is it? On Instagram. But the point is a smaller but more engaged following.
Exactly. Smaller, more engaged following.
5,800 is pretty good. We'll see if we can get that up.
He should be at 9.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
But he will have those people that they listen to what he says.
Yeah.
And they engage with the message that he's got.
Yes.
So it's a balance. So we will have our Stabila family that are contracted partners that work with us, that we collaborate with each year. We tend to max out at around 8. With that, we'll have, like everybody does, the idea of the type of content that we want to produce each month, but we try and give an element of responsibility to them. And this is where the authenticity comes in.
Yes.
Because we don't want to say to them, right, this spirit level, we want everybody plugging this month. Because the reality is, Liam's a plumber, Ollie Lee's a carpenter, Adam Semmons is a steel fabricator. They use different tools for different jobs.
Yes.
And that's what we want to try and get across. In a lot of instances, the way we partner is through tools. So, you can have the option to take cash if you've been with us for a long time, but with most of them, it's you get a value of tools through every year.
Give us the gear.
Yeah, and that I think is quite important, because that's where authenticity comes in. And with any partnerships and collaborations we do on socials, we want people that are already bought in and engaged to the brand. So it doesn't become we want to give you money, or we want to throw tools at you in the hope that you'll put it out there and it will get reach.
Yes.
So we want people that are already passionate, that will recommend it because they believe in the product, not because they're paid to.
Yeah.
And that's really important. So most of the people we partner with, when we start having conversations, we've already interacted with them for years.
Yeah.
They share content of our products, they give us feedback. We've already got a relationship that then forms to something a bit more formal.
Yeah.
Underneath that, we collaborate with people and can get them tool discounts.
Yes.
We don't give free tools out to people.
No.
And it might be a little bit naive because you might miss the opportunity to get some fantastic reach opportunities. But what it gives us is protecting that authenticity in message.
Yes.
And, we'll have people that will say, look, I'm interested in getting this laser. And we go, great, I can sort you out a discount. If you do some great videos for us, I can get you a discount. But there's commitment from them. There's financial commitment from them to work with and back the brand.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the follow-up conversation is, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say in the video? What are the things you want me to pull out? And we say, well, it's your tool. You've bought it.
Yeah.
Warts and all, review it.
Yeah.
If there's things that you think aren't great with it, say it. That's absolutely fine, because it has to be authentic, warts
100%.
and all.
It's really, really interesting. And there was a thread of thought that I sort of had midway through that conversation around the authenticity and the difference between taking money and taking product. And I think there's I don't know where I'm going with this, but essentially, let me just air my thoughts. You've got someone like Liam, who is a full-time tradesperson. They make their income via their trade. But they love social media. They've got a small audience on social media, not enough for them to make a living out of it and stuff like that, but enough to be of interest to a lot of people. So you can take some money, but he doesn't need money. He's got a job. He's not a full-time. He's not a full-time influencer. So like from my point of view, from a brand's point of view, if he's got an option, he can take some cash or he can take some product. If he's taking the product, it's kind of an indicator that that's going to be used, and it kind of almost got the right mentality for what you want to achieve, because he's not looking to just make a buck off every brand that he works with. He just loves the brand, and therefore he's going to talk about it in a really authentic way. I think every episode I say this about 60 times. Somebody takes the cash, nothing wrong with that. But eventually, the more you take the cash, the more it leads into, right, this is a full-time job for me now, influencing. And eventually, I'm not going to have enough time to do the actual work. And therefore, not always, there's going to be some accounts out there that are really authentic and they are a full-time influencer. That content gets less and less authentic, and therefore the brands who have got a brand values like yourselves and a strategy are going to become less and less interested. So they go on this kind of trajectory of like money, and then all of a sudden they're and it's like the graph goes money and like authentic, but like the opposite way. So this is like not authentic, this is really authentic, and basically the more money they get, the less authentic their content, and then it goes like a dip down. So where I'm going with that is, and I've said it before, the market is all about this micro influence, the smaller creator, because it benefits everybody. If they're taking, even if it's small amounts of cash, but mainly for like they're just taking products and stuff like that, means that they can make more content and they can enjoy it more, and we can keep doing the job that they enjoy, and you're not turning Liam's and all these different people into huge accounts that eventually become defunct because no one cares about what they've got to say, because they're not even a trade anymore. They're off the tools, which is a term you hear a lot about. It's like that. They're off the tools now, so I wouldn't even bother working with them.
I think the model doesn't always work like that. It's the risk that as you grow and more money comes in, then you shift focuses away from being on the tools to off the tools, and actually it's more about who pays you the most.
Yes.
Like we partner with informally some, what's the big influence? What would you call them?
Just influencers, I think. Yeah.
Super turbo, mega big.
Yeah. I usually say big accounts.
Yeah.
The bigger accounts.
Like we will work with bigger accounts that we don't have any financial relationship with whatsoever.
Yeah.
They will recommend our products because they believe in it. It's people like Robin Clevitt. He does a show on Fixed Radio. He's got a really big social following. He uses Stabila because he believes in it. We talk to him occasionally. We interact with him. He's part of what we would see as our community.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that there needs to be a financial relationship. His relationship is with the brand and with the product. One of our family, Adam Semmons, I he's got over 90,000 followers, Adam.
Goodness, yeah.
And he would always share our tools. The reason he's part of the family is almost as a thank you, because he's doing now what he was doing before.
He'd do it regardless.
He'd do it regardless.
Because it's of value to his audience.
Exactly. Because his audience want to see the work that he's doing, and they want to see the tools that he's using, and he believes and buys into the product anyway.
Yeah.
Like he bought one of our high-end lasers and did all of this series of reviews on it. They're completely unpaid. He didn't tell us, didn't ask us for any support. Bought it because he buys into the brand and the product. That's
really cool. And it's an interesting thing, isn't it? It's like, we would keep doing this podcast regardless of whether Shure paid us for these microphones, because we like the microphone. We don't have to get paid for every product that's in all of our content. We just go, I don't want any money off Shure. Like, Shure make cool microphones that are really good. They're really expensive, but they do what we need them to do. You don't have to get paid by everybody just because it's a tool that you've always used. Great if you can, but I think as soon as you go, I think he's been using Stabila forever, and then let's say he has a conversation with you guys, say, hey, do you want to start paying me? And you go, no, and would he then stop using Stabila? No, because it's his tool. He's got that kind of brand loyalty, not just because of the brand, but because of the quality, and it fits with his workflow. So I'm not sure what the takeaway is from that, apart from just being careful about the people that you work with when it comes to these kinds of relationships. You've got the family, which is a little bit more formal. You've got the guys who are want to make content on your products, and you can go for it, but you've still got to pay for them. There's a little bit of a discount here, but you've still got to pay for them. And we're not associating ourselves with that because I think there is risk, and we've talked about this before, there's risk with using influencers and big accounts, because then you can, especially if you actively partner with them, rather than them just using your product, you can't really control that. But if you actively partner with a particular individual or several individuals, and then all of a sudden they fall out of favor with the industry, which happens a lot. You are then associated, especially if they are the Stabila guy, and you associate them with Stabila. There's a lot of accounts that you associate with a particular brand. And if they do something a bit shady, or if they fall out of favor, they bring the brand down with it. So you've got to be so careful.
Or if you fall out of love with them.
Yeah.
If you decide we don't want to partner with you anymore, it can turn very sour very quickly. But like I was saying before, I suppose key takeaway for me is the authenticity. If you have an authentic partner on socials, and you have a genuine relationship there that is not a financial one, they're bought into the brand, then you're kind of protected from things like that. Because like you said before, if they were paid or not paid, they'd still be doing the same content and still be sharing the message about the brand.
Yes.
So you have some protection.
And it goes back to the original message of garnering recommendations. If you've got this authentic people using your product on social media, that's going to result in more recommendations. And it's an extension of the old school 50 years ago, seeing the guy on site that was doing a really good job using those particular products, and you go, well, I aspire to be that person, and therefore I'm going to get those products.
I had a question for you.
Yes.
So you're talking before about measures of success. When it comes to socials, because you do holistic management of people's socials end to end. How do you measure the success of it?
It's a mix, and usually we'll have KPIs. So the KPIs, the key performance indicators, are things that are stipulated by the client. So sometimes it'll be sales, but that's quite difficult again, because most of the time we're dealing with people who are dealing with direct distributors. So you can put out an amazing campaign, it'll do incredibly well, and if all of your distributors are terrible at sales, there's not going to be that much benefit. So that's quite difficult. I think there's a number of different factors that we sort of measure success on, which is followers. There's a lot of the time there'll be some sort of KPI around building awareness of the brand. But because of the creative side of what we do, and because we don't do a lot of paid activation, a lot of the measurement is around the engagement on a particular campaign and how that's worked. Because not always are we creating campaigns based on a product. We might be doing it at a bit of awareness of something. We do quite a lot of brand work where we're sort of pushing the values of a particular brand because we want to associate the brand with a particular type of person. And then if we start to see more of those kinds of people using the product on social media, then we'll sort of gauge that as a success. But the hard kind of figures we really struggle to get. So we'll work with exactly what we've got, which is engagement, followers, and generally, like from our point of view, from a creative director's point of view, is how is the brand appearing? So if I've got a goal of this is how I want the brand to appear, or our client has a particular goal, we want to appear like this to this kind of people from a visual point of view, and then we'll start to push out content that's more aligned with that across the next year. And we'll look at the benchmark of what they were like before we started working with them and what they were like after. And we can see a very clear visual difference of how they look to an end user. And we could probably do some clever research with that and go, when you look at, let's say we want to appeal to a type of audience that will pay a little bit more for a more refined product. And so we'll take, let's say their socials, because we're a social media agency, we'll take all their social kind of content, pull it into some kind of document, which is the benchmark, and then a year later, we'll pull all of our stuff that we've made, and we'll make a visual comparison to like, let's say an end user of like, which one of those would you pay more for? And so we haven't done stuff like that. Research is very much like, we could start doing this now because we've been working with brands a longer time. So it's a really wishy-washy way of saying there's quite a few different ways that we measure success. And a lot of those will be stipulated by the client. But the one that I'm most interested in is brand appearance. They're the things that really factor in, because Dissident has a look, and not to say that it's the only thing that we can do. We work with healthcare brands. Not everything has to be like rock and roll and super gritty and contrasty, but it is our preference, especially for the construction industry. It's how we work best. But visuals for me and the sort of the less measurable stuff is very much about brand appearance and. There's a term I used the other day that was really clever, and I've completely forgotten it. I feel like I might have like stolen it from somebody else. Positioning. The positioning's not the term, but brand positioning, how the brand is positioned. I used a different term, but that's an easier one. Doesn't really answer your question.
No, it does.
I wasn't ready.
It does answer it, because it's quite a leady question, because like somebody asked me the other day, what's your target on number of followers? I said, I don't have a target on number of followers.
Vanity metric for the most part.
Providing we're not losing people, I'm more interested in an engaged community. And exactly like you said, when people look at our content and our page, how does that make them feel?
Yes.
Like if you could survey people and say, right, now you've been viewing the content, how do you feel about Stabila? What are the 5 words that come straight to your mind? And if those align back to what your golden thread is and what your strategy is, then that's what you're trying to achieve. And it is more of a visual thing.
Yeah.
You look at it, you look at the grid and you look at the reels and go, is this helping to us achieve that feeling that we want people to feel when they look at our brand?
Exactly.
That's the most important bit.
Does it position it in the right area? And one of the things that you have to almost have like a bit of you have to have a moral compass in this role, because we can manipulate our clients' accounts. We have a lot of like scary control over what we can do to a brand as an agency. We could, if we wanted to, we could ruin a brand really quickly. And obviously, but we don't want that. We want success, because we
don't put that in your sales pitch.
We want them to keep paying us. But there are some KPIs that we do have. So followers is one of them. For a lot of our brands, they want to build their reach.
It is important.
Exactly.
Not to be ignored.
But so we a lot of the time we'll get bonuses on if we hit targets, which is cool. But we there are quite shady ways of getting stuff up. I mean, buying followers is an obvious one, but putting out ridiculous competitions to get numbers up and stuff like that is another one. It's not shady. It's a genuine strategy, and it works fine. But what you're going to get with that is a lot of people that don't engage with the brand. So you hit one KPI, but not another one. And then so you're fighting all those things. So you have to have a moral compass, because yes, we could hit that KPI. We could hit it relatively easily in the time allotted to us. But we also want to make sure that we're not just got a load of people that aren't engaged with the brand because they're people who notoriously just enter competitions to win stuff. And we've come across that a lot. And you've got to be so careful. So although we can hit KPIs, we will communicate to the client that we're going to do it in a way that's best for the brand. And if we don't hit that KPI, it's because our moral compass didn't allow it. Or obviously, if we've not done a good job, we will tell them. They'll know because we communicate these things constantly. But there's so many ways you can manipulate the figures. And engagement, it's one of those things where, I've said this before, going off on a bit of a social media tangent. People who don't understand social media, let's say we're working with marketing managers who perhaps aren't as knowledgeable about social media, which is fine. It's not for everybody. They are looking at a lot of the time engagement. So they want to see a lot of engagement on posts and things like that. My argument to this, and a lot of marketers will agree with me, that you can't always get engagement on everything. So because the classic example is, you post a selfie of you with your dog, gets a shitload of engagement. You post an amazing 10 grand production of the new product, gets hardly anywhere as much engagement as that. But which has sold your product better? The picture of you with your dog, or the picture of the 10 grand production of this amazing product? And so the argument is that big production of your new product doesn't need engagement. It just needs eyeballs. When I see an advert, I don't instantly go, really cool ad, guys, well done, but it's still worked. It's still ingrained in my head. And then if I start to see the follow-ups of that, I start to see influencers using it. I start to see users, engaging with it. I start to see the brand doing little walkthroughs of that particular product. Then it's working even further. If I see more selfies of you with your dog or whatever that get tons of engagement, yes, I might engage with that. I go, have a great time.
Yeah, doesn't change any behavior.
It's not led me to purchase a particular product, and that's something that we have to educate our clients on a regular basis. Is just because it didn't get the engagement that you wanted doesn't mean it didn't work.
Yeah,
but again, it comes back to balance, because there will be some pieces of content that we can make. A classic example is high production UGC content. So if we essentially are working with an account or just ourselves, and we produce a vertical video that kind of looks like it could have been shot on a phone, but it's actually like really nicely lit and it's really high quality, and it's essentially 10 grand's worth of camera being turned on its side and shot in a way that kind of looks a bit like user-generated content. They get tons of engagement. But what you've got to be careful with is if you've got a brand that's positioning itself as a high, higher level and a premium product, you want to be careful with UGC content, because that positions, when you start to see this kind of stuff being produced by the company, it looks like, I don't know, there's a juxtaposition there between the brand positioning and the content that you create, and so you've got to kind of balance that out. We struggle with this a little bit because UGC gets a lot of engagement, and it's good because we can see the product in use. What I don't like is to see it on the feed of our clients. So I struggle, and I have sort of battled with our marketing managers to be like, can we not have as much crappy phone content on our clients' socials anymore? Or can we at least have a little break, because I need people to see that this is a very quality, high premium brand with all of the glossy stuff that we make.
That's where your influencers come in, though, isn't it? Let them do it in their own way. They've got their own style that appeals to their own audience. You just have a much cleaner, clearer way of communicating.
100%. It comes back to that balance again. It's just you got to figure it out, and sometimes you can make mistakes, and you go, hold on, guys, I don't like how this brand's looking at the moment, and we do need to pivot. We need to stop this right now, because I can, and that's kind of my job as a creative director, is to see things from afar and project things as much as possible. I feel like we're coming to the end here, Oliver. We've had some really, really good discussions, and I think hopefully there's been a lot of really, really good takeaways. Is there anything that I should have asked you that you feel like I haven't? Is there something? If you come in here loaded with some information, like I hope he asks me about this?
No, I think I probably got it through. There's maybe one bit actually that going back to the market research, something that surprised us that is becoming more of a core part of how we communicate that I never expected to be. It's probably the biggest surprise when we did market research. Facebook. So we were all under the impression Instagram, TikTok, Facebook's dead.
Everyone says that
for all people. I don't think it is.
No.
When we did our research, and we've done more since to establish this, Facebook shouldn't be forgotten because most tradesmen are on Facebook.
Yeah.
More from a professional perspective.
Yeah.
So if you think of who their core market is, people getting stuff done in their house, it is boomers, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is people that have money, that are at home more often, and that are getting painting decorators in, they're getting extensions done. They're the ones that own property. They're the ones that have the money.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are all on Facebook. And they're the ones that are on community groups on Facebook asking for recommendations for a builder. So you find most tradespeople will have a business account on Facebook. The other avenue is they're also part of these community groups. So like Tyler's Community, like Bricklayers Online, Bricklayers Social Club.
They're huge.
They have tens, hundreds of thousands of followers. That the engagement levels that they get in their community is more than any other social influencer you'll find. Most people that are on it are engaging actively. So if you as a brand start to engage and involve in those community groups and you're more visible, I'm not saying Facebook is an advertising opportunity, but that community aspect on Facebook is a lot bigger than a lot of people think it is.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see a trend of the younger generation. I'm 35. Molly, who works here, is 24. She's on Facebook regularly, and I always say, like, why the hell are you on? Like, I don't do anything on Facebook at all because I just think it's a weird, depressing mess of news and ads.
Yeah.
And there's every time I go on there, I cringe, and but Molly's on it all the time. And she doesn't post anything on there. She's just kind of stalking, doing a thing, like looking at different stuff that's going on, getting her news or whatever. She'll be on Instagram as well, but it's a surprising amount she's on Facebook. And it's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like trendy to be kind of retro again.
Yeah.
Which is, I find that interesting. We've not had great success with a lot of our brands on Facebook, and it's purely from an engagement point of view. Our stuff engages better on Instagram, but we'll never discount it. Facebook's and the Facebook ads is still so powerful.
Yeah.
And we don't put a lot into Facebook anymore for a lot of our brands, but purely because the organic stuff doesn't get anywhere near as much engagement. But you're absolutely right. Tradespeople. Smaller companies, white fan man, I always could do that. Painters and decorators, small businesses, they're all on Facebook. I flicked onto Facebook the other day. I was taking my bike in for a service, my push bike. And it was the first time I'll be like, I'm just going to check. I know that this company's going to be on Facebook. I just want to see if they're open today on this particular time or something like that. No, I think I checked and they weren't open. So I went onto their Facebook and it said, that was my news. It said, we're out today. We're going to an event. So yeah, the classic example of like these small businesses, like that's where you get your information. They probably wouldn't have posted that on Instagram because it's just a quick post. You know what I mean? They don't have to find a nice bit of creative for that. It's just a quick text post and stuff. So yeah, absolutely. Still, Facebook's still relevant. My sort of hot take for this is TikTok. If you're not on TikTok because you think you have to make silly videos and do like TikTok type content, what I'm saying is you don't have to make that stuff. You don't have to do those kind of like that kind of content. You can produce the same stuff that they're making on Instagram, on TikTok, yes, it might not get as much engagement on that platform, but at least you're there. At least you're showing up.
Yeah.
Show up in as many places as possible. However, to this day, I don't think we've got one client who has a X account, a Twitter account. We don't look after any of that stuff
we don't
anymore.
do that.
No.
We had one that was owned by an agent that we're trying to get shut down, but it doesn't get used.
Yeah.
It's not an avenue. I don't really know the purpose of it
No.
anymore.
No,
From
it's
a
changed.
brand point of view, I don't know what you would use it for.
No.
I sort of get TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, these as avenues to communicate different messages in different ways should be there.
Yeah.
X, I don't
Yeah.
really know.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Absolutely. Last question. We've talked about the past. We've talked about the present of marketing in the construction industry. Have you got any predictions of like the way it's going to kind of keep evolving from now on? Have you got any like sort of foresight into? I reckon it might go in this direction, or we might start losing this, or something like that.
I think it'll be a continuation of what we're already seeing. I think there will be an ever increasing number of ways for you to communicate in a digital virtual world. I think that it will lead to the erosion of sort of standard traditional methods like print media. So yeah, I think the future holds, to be honest, the same continuation of what we're doing now. But that said, in 3 years' time, there might be a completely new platform, a new TikTok, and Instagram starts to die because there's a different way.
Yeah.
The main message is you've got to be on your toes as a brand, and you've got to be willing, like conversation at the start about podcasts, to put yourself out there a little bit and step into a new way of communicating, because soon that new way of communicating will be mainstream and congested.
Yes.
So you just have to be constantly ready to keep on growing. And like you said a second ago, you want your brand to be visible in as many places as you can.
Yes.
Because it's a great opportunity to get better reach than would have happened 40 years ago when the only way is through word of mouth on sites, or the main way.
Yeah. And I think a good point to make from that is, it's good to be seen in as many different places as possible, but keep your brand positioning, your brand message, and the values intact. Don't feel like you have to conform to the rules or the perceived rules of that particular platform. Stick to the core messaging. Stay the course. Keep that golden thread.
Yeah.
You don't have to start doing silly dances on TikTok just as a brand because everyone else is doing it. You can stay the course and still produce really good content. Ollie, thank you so much.
Sure.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
If you everybody go and check out Stabila and all the cool content and see all the stuff that they're doing and all the stuff that we discussed. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, mate.
Thanks.